getting a technical knockout essentially within 26 seconds, and to have everybody there and to show them.
Welcome in everybody to episode 14 of the Rambling Gamers. Today's episode is none other than the amazing Kamorah, a good friend of mine, good streamer. He used to be an MMA fighter where he went undefeated. He used to work for the Cleveland Indians, and now he's a full-time streamer. We're going to get to learn more about him. Welcome in, Kamorah. How you doing today?
I'm great. Appreciate you having me here. I'm super
Yeah.
excited to have this,
Yeah.
especially someone as awesome as you, man.
Oh, no, you're too kind. I've been wanting to have you on since I started the podcast. I'm like, Kamorah is one of the guys I got to get on because you have such a unique story, I feel. And we have some things we're going to talk about. We're going to start where we always start, is early life gaming. And let me know how you got into it. What was your first game that family played, that friends get you into it? How did that start?
I think when I think back to the first game I ever played, I can think of Super Mario 3. I think that was the first game I ever played on the original SNES.
Yeah.
One of, and still one of, the most frustrating games ever made. And I still never beat it because it was impossible as a 4-year-old.
I feel the same way.
It's my gosh, I don't think I could go back now and beat it. We have all these crazy games, 4D virtual reality, and it's still the original Mario games. Yeah. Harder than anything else.
They were like, we don't want you to beat this. That's how it felt to me, at least. It was like,
yeah,
we want you to play World 1-1 over and over again.
Yeah, and then you'd find those little cheats where you could, fly up above the map and then go to World 8. I could still do that today. Yeah. I will never forget that because it was the only way I was making it to the end, and then I would just lose there.
Same way. Probably my least played maps were like, 5, 6, 7, because it's like the first couple you're trying to get through and skip ahead and get the whistle or whatever it was and get all the way through. So your first console was the SNES. Any other games on there do you remember playing? 'Cause I remember I used to play Mortal Kombat all the time. I love fighting games and stuff like that.
On the original one, and I can think of like little ones I played. I think was it Burger Town? Was that one of them? Or I can't remember. It was a little restaurant game, and I genuinely don't remember because I didn't play it very long. But I remember games that have essentially scarred me for life, like Paperboy. We were actually venting about this the other day. Still one of the most frustrating and nonsensical games you'll ever play. Delivering papers, and all of a sudden you're in a BMX arena and you can't crash or you didn't do your job. It makes no sense at all. But I think those games were a little bit more mentally draining than games like today where you can hit pause, save.
I know.
There it was just awful.
Or you have unlimited lives, where you don't have to start over 30 times.
Oh my gosh. Could you just still remember Saturday mornings you wake up, you're the farthest you've ever been, and somebody bumps the console and you gotta start over? Remember those days?
Yes. Somebody bumps the console, or mine, our SNES, it would just randomly just like reset. Like, it wasn't all the time, but it would just be like, we're not going to work, so we had to take it out, blow in the cartridge, and like that.
Yep.
Throwing my spit in there, like, that helped, but it felt like I did when I was 6, 7, 8.
Well, and everybody had the magical way to blow into the cartridge that would make it work. And, if that technique didn't work, it's because your cartridge was broken. It wasn't their technique or that it didn't make sense, or like you said, spit going into it. It's just absolute ridiculousness, and everybody had a way to make it work.
Oh, and one story I always tell, and my listeners will know, they know the story by heart probably, but my sister always blamed me for erasing her save files, but really it was the battery that one, because there were, I didn't know back then, there was a little battery, and that's how it saved everything. It was on the cartridge. Like you said, it was different. It was everything. You could bring your save file to somebody else's SNES. There's nothing else in the console other than to play it.
Yeah, and it's still wild to think about, and it's still funny to me to think how much it's changed, from playing Mario and then progressing to things like Sega. That's where I really got into gaming, with Sega. I loved it. There's still so many titles on there that I look up today to see if there's like a PC version or something. Speaking of scarring games like Toy Story, Lion King, pretty much anything Disney. Also very frustrating, but those were the games that made us. And resilience, that's what it would teach you. It was a great life
Yes.
lesson, honestly.
It was get up and try again,
Yep.
like
You didn't have any other choice. There was nothing you could do. Again, you couldn't save, you couldn't add lives.
yeah.
It wasn't like
Oh,
GTA where you just enter in a bunch of codes and you have unlimited lives or something like that.
no.
It
It
was
was
make or break.
it was real game over. Those were the original
Exactly.
game over days where it's just like, well,
Yep.
time to start over. Um
And do people now even know what game over means? Do they have any
I
idea?
don't oh, that's a really good question other than, getting like a headshot, and it's like, oh, you
Yeah,
respawn.
exactly.
That's
I
a
mean, but honestly, I mean, if it's not an arcade game, it's like you just spawn back in.
yeah.
I mean, Rebirth Island taught us that.
Yeah.
Now it'd be Call of Duty. You can even come back in certain
Yeah.
modes.
Oh, and that reminds me, and you can let me know if you did. I just thought of this. Arcades, like going and bringing quarters, or have $3 on me. I got quarters, and I'm going to try to last as long as I can for Street Fighter or whatever game. Did you go to any arcades when you were younger?
Yeah, actually, so in our hometown, I grew up in a very small town. In fact, it's called a village. And about 20 minutes away was our mall. If it gives you any idea of how much of a mall it is, now I'm pretty sure it's called a town square, and it has 1 to 2 food places open still.
Oh,
It was it was pretty bad, but it always had an awesome arcade. Um, and it was always a place like I always try to go in and just try to find the latest and greatest. Shooters were absolutely my favorite. The ones where you actually would hold the guns and in play, or the ones where you'd sit down and like go through like the Jurassic Park adventure.
right.
But I love to go in and just try everything. I think everybody's favorite there was probably Dance Dance Revolution.
Oh, yeah.
Like many other places, and you always have that one guy who you'd see him playing, you're like, well, I can't beat that, so I'm not even gonna try because I'm gonna look ridiculous. So I feel like every time I went there, there was a guy like that. So I never did it because I refused. I refused to try to follow up the best act with something that
Yeah.
would be lackluster at best.
No, same here, especially being an introvert myself. I see someone and they're like killing it. It's like, I'm just going to watch because I'm going to go up there and not hit any of the arrows and any of the right spots. We had like an arcade. We had an arcade as well that everybody would go to. And we'd always try to go like on Fridays. And it was like this one or two guys that would be there and they would just play it like the whole night. Like they were just hogging
Yeah.
it because they were just that good. And I'm just like, well, I'm not going to waste my money. I'm going to go play whatever, go karts, the Need for Speed
Mhm.
racing. I always like the racing games as well. And even
Yeah.
though the steering sucked on them, looking back, it's like nowadays it's so easy. Back then, it's like the wheel just didn't work right. And
Or
it,
the motorcycle ones. Now
oh,
that I know how
yeah,
to ride motorcycles, I look back like, man, I hurt myself pretty bad. I'm thinking I look really cool on this plastic motorcycle. You never do. It was just the perception of playing a game from
right,
1985 while riding on a motorcycle. But those are the games that made us. They brought us here today. So,
yeah.
can we ask really quick? How did those guys who always stayed on Dance Dance Revolution, where they get all the quarters? Because I don't know about you, but at the age of 10,
Oh,
I would
you're
struggle to
right.
find $2 worth. Where were they getting it all? It was $2 a play.
Well, all those kids that I would see when I was there, I was probably around like 10 or 12, so I would see them probably like 14, 15, 16. So they could have even had a cheap little Burger King job. Maybe they're just
That's fair.
spending all their money on that, or lucky enough to have
That's
rich
true.
parents, they got all the
Yeah.
quarters, and
It was always the same two guys, though, like you said.
yeah.
Just every night, every Friday night.
And I always remember this one dude, he had the like the bell bottom jeans or something that went way too big and it was like torn on the bottom. I mean, you were in Cleveland, I'm in New York. We had snow. It was back when we used to get snow, and the back of the bottom of the jeans were just threads at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can still picture those threads going through the snow, the mud, and you're like, well, great. And then you have the awesome videos where people are trying to do the game, and there's just really good mess ups. So we'll say, go to YouTube, go find them.
I know. No, sticking with like early game consoles. Did you have any portable consoles? The Game Boy, the Game Gear, anything?
Yes.
What?
Oh, man, Game Boy Color. That was, I can still to this
Yeah,
day, I remember the day before I was going to get mine. A buddy of mine had the OG Game Boy, the big blocky
the
one.
big gray one.
Pokemon, yeah, Pokemon Red and Blue. And I was running through a game, and I remember my mom needed me to do something. I said, I have to practice. I'm getting my game tomorrow. I have to be ready. I need to know what I'm gonna do, even though it was just the excitement. I knew I was gonna get Pokemon Red. I was
Mm.
gonna pick Charmander, and he was gonna be a Charizard before I went to bed that night. And that Pokemon was the defining series for me as a kid, and
Yeah.
even to this day, I collect the cards, very high end cards that I dreamed of having as a kid.
Right.
Now I'm getting to save and collect for my son so he can have for the future, which is really cool. Um, and to see that the series is still around is a special thing too, because it just kind of gives you that link to the past, which is
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and just, just so everybody knows when we're recording this, like they just had the last episode of Ash being the main character of the
Hmm.
Pokemon series, which for me it's just like, oh God, these last 20 years, I remember coming home, running home off the bus and like Pokemon's on. I'm doing nothing, or Saturday morning, like I'm gonna find a way to watch it. Uh,
Yeah, it was a defining series for our entire generation. Honestly, I mean, I still remember to this day. For me, it was on in the morning, so that's what I would watch before school. I'd be at my grandma's house waiting for the bus, and it was always on about an hour before the bus came. Back to back episodes. Would watch that, and then when I came home for school, it was going through Pokemon cards. Um, every time I went to a campground with a buddy of mine, we would try to go to a flea market that was nearby and try to buy and sell cards to everybody we could, just because we were that into it.
wow.
Running around, imagining we were catching characters and stuff. To think that it's over for Ash,
I know.
it's it's crazy because it almost felt like something that never would end. He would be 10 years old forever and accomplish more in 1 year of life for himself than we could ever imagine doing in an entire lifetime. Um, I'm looking forward to going back. I was telling my wife recently I want to watch from episode one all the way to the end.
Yeah.
In this final episode, it's going to be bittersweet, I think, but I'm
Yeah.
excited for it.
That's a good idea. I wonder, is it all on Netflix? Is that where the whole series?
I think on Netflix they have I don't know if they went by seasons or how they did it. It's like seasons 1 and 2, but it's like 60 episodes each or something. So I don't know how they
Okay.
did it.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
was just
so.
gonna opt to see if someone maybe on Amazon or eBay had the
Right,
entire
had the whole
collection for
collection. Yeah,
less than a car's amount of money.
right. So I think I can already guess this, but for your card collection, did you have a favorite? Was it Charizard? Was that your favorite
It was
card?
Charizard.
Okay.
And as
Yeah.
a kid, I wanted that base set Charizard. I only ever
Hmm.
came across one, and it was a buddy of mine who traded it to me, and it was one that had gone through the washer. I was so desperate to have a Charizard though, I didn't care.
Yeah.
I just wanted it. And we're still right now trying to find where all of our old cards are back home. We found some of them, but not
Hmm.
all of them. I know that Charizard's out there.
Right.
Um, but it's funny because now part of streaming full time, I actually do a lot of card buy, sell, trade, collecting, and grading.
Hmm.
Um, so the collection I have now is crazier than I've ever could have imagined as a kid of having. Um, so now it's chasing that first edition version,
Yeah.
which in time will happen when
It'll happen.
in time it'll
Yeah.
happen.
Hey, have faith. It'll happen. It'll happen. And
Exactly.
one thing I want to change gears a little bit because we're gonna obviously keep talking about games this whole time, but the first thing that I remember learning about you, just so everybody knows, the listeners, like Kamorah and I, he followed me on Instagram, and at that time I was like, I really want to make meaningful connections, and I let him know, and he let me know right back. And one thing I saw that he was like an MMA fighter, and we got to talking. So I want to know like how you got into it, what got you interested, and kind of just tell us a little bit of story of that portion of your life.
Yeah. I actually started training MMA when I was about 15. And long story short, it was a couple years before that. I had a really bad back injury from football. And I essentially lost all of my sports. I was out of football, basketball, or my most important sport, baseball. Um, and it really destroyed me because going from playing all these sports to hardly being able to walk, it just, you essentially lose your identity.
Right.
Um, and I had heard about MMA. I was very much the quiet kid, very you know, I was nice to everybody, friends with everybody, but I was not the one who went into a room and tried to make myself known kind of thing.
Right.
Ended up finding this organization online. It was called the Anointed Fighter. And I have a Christian background, but it was about this time where, it kind of really took off for me. And I found a message of how MMA can kind of go with scripture in the sense of overcoming the challenges of the world and pushing yourself beyond the limits that you think you have for yourself. And I got into MMA as a way to kind of stay active and essentially have a way to train and have something that I'm training for. Never thought I'd fight, um, but a couple of years later, we started some small local events, and we started, having fights here and there. We'd set them up. That we had a referee. We had everything needed, and it became something that was a big time passion for me. Went to college at Cleveland State. We ended up starting a team at Cleveland State. Um, and it really started to take off. And again, that kind of identity came back, but it was really special because it went along with my beliefs and helping to bring people together who normally wouldn't come together. And you're bringing out the best in each other, overcoming those challenges of, I can't, I'm tired, I have this, I have that. And you boost each other up and build each other up to, get beyond those limitations once again and making connections with people that otherwise you may not ever have. It's really cool to see how no matter what differences you had, you could come together in MMA and overcome things together, push each other to be better than you were when you stepped in that day, and ultimately just achieve the unthinkable. And it wasn't even about competing, but the brotherhood that you had there was uncomparable to anything else. It truly blood, sweat, and tears every single day. But when you leave there, the people that you bonded with was unlike anything else you could ever experience.
Oh man, that's awesome, and and that's amazing that you found something that worked for you. You know what I mean? That worked for you,
Yeah.
and the bonding experiences you had, and so you did it throughout college, and then
Mhm.
from there, did you say I want to go pro? Is that how it went?
So it went back and forth. I never actually went professional. I
Mm.
did it through professional organizations, but did
Oh,
not take on professional
okay.
contracts. So like I had, like a televised fight and stuff like that, but it wasn't under a professional setting.
Oh,
There's different standings or like you had to there were different statistics and stuff you had to reach, and then you'd have to take on other people who had those same things. So it never actually fell under the professional track. Did have discussions with him about doing it, but it was actually about that time where I met my now wife, and it was just not something I really wanted to do for a job.
right.
Because as cool as it is to say you're an MMA, you have to love every single part of it, and that comes with even though I didn't have a loss, I had I went 13-0 with our smaller events and amateur fights and stuff. Still had 7 concussions.
Oh.
Um, those migraines behind the scene were unreal. So again, you think, oh, undefeated fighter. There's still consequences to everything you do.
I've
Um,
watched it. That's hard on your body, you know.
it is.
Like,
It's very hard, and that's not even just everyday training.
right.
Um, I remember one day in college after one of my buddies and I, he was big time fighter. He was literally 6'7", 225, as lean as could be, had fought all over Russia. And we were really good buddies, but we had this agreement until this day, for whatever reason, that he and I would never spar without headgear and stuff, just because neither of us would let it stop. We'd just keep going. Well, this day, for whatever odd reason, we did. It took about 10 seconds. I clocked him really hard, and he clocked me at the same exact time. We both ended up with concussions and out of the sport for over a month.
Oh.
um, it was awesome, and we had a blast. But I remember messaging him about a week later. It's like, hey, how you feeling? He's like, I don't even know what day it is right
Oh.
now. And I was like, same. I just was looking up at my light, and the light was just getting brighter and dimmer. And I
Right.
was like, I'm this is a tough one.
Right.
So it just wasn't a path I wanted to go down to make a living. I wanted to have a family, and now I do. And as much as I will always miss competing, I can still take those workouts and trainings, and I can go forward with that. So I don't have to be in the competitive world to stay
Right.
involved with MMA, which is cool.
Right. And it sounds like it was just a stepping stone to where you are now. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's not about
It was.
not always about the end goal, it's about the journey along the way. And it sounds like
Exactly.
you've had a fun journey.
It's been
Um
fun.
um
Couple headaches here and there. Yeah, it's fine.
oh man. They I mean for me just a regular headache is just a pain. I can't imagine like an actual reason behind it, beyond just the looking at the screen too long. That's what I complain about, but
You have to find a doctor that's willing to get past the whole you need to stop getting concussions, who can just look at you and be like, you're here again. What'd you do this time? Don't do that.
yeah.
It's a journey, that's for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite moments when you're in matches? Any like maybe your last one or even like the first one that you had? Do you have anything that stands out to you?
Honestly, it is my last one, and at the time, I didn't know it was going to be. It was, the biggest one I had ever done. It was through an organization that's now shut down, but, it was the first time I had all of my family there, all of my friends, the lights were on, the cameras were on, it was awesome, and I was actually going against, a guy I consider a friend from high school, and, we had done a small local fight together before that I had won, and we came to an agreement to fight through this organization. And I actually went up 2 weight classes to make it happen because
Oh,
he's
wow.
much taller than me, and we didn't have the leniency of it being a smaller event. So I went up 2 weight classes for it, and I ended up getting a technical knockout essentially within 26 seconds. And to have everybody there and to show them, you know, this is what we've built up to was really cool.
Yeah.
Uh, it'll always be a very special fight because once again, having everybody there for the first time all in one place to see what
Right.
we've built up to, and within the octagon to be able to take the microphone, people like, what's your journey like? And I was able to say, my faith brought me here, so glory to God for this. And it's amazing how you can use a unique sport that then I actually went into talking to youth groups about. It was just kind of cool how it all came full circle from training locally with friends to taking it to this massive fight that then went out and talked to kids about to help impact their lives. It was a really cool thing.
Yeah. No, I can see it in your face, like how much that moment means to you. Like whenever when you see someone tell a story and they're just glowing, I
Yeah,
can tell before we even started telling. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good.
it'll always be, and at the time, like you said, I didn't know it was going to be a stepping stone, what it really was, but it will
Right.
always be something that I hold near and dear to my heart because it was so awesome how it kind of came full circle, and then to be able to take my experience and impact somebody else's life was really cool.
No, that's awesome. And I want to ask a question for those that may not know, because we're gonna have people that have watched it or haven't watched MMA. For anybody that may not be sure how you do it, how do you get up 2 weight classes? What's the process of doing that? Is it just eating more? Is it lifting like heavier weights? Like how do you what to a layman's terms? What do you do?
So normally, in MMA, you would actually cut way down to the weight class you're going to fight at. So, at the time, my quote unquote walking weight, so what I would weigh on an every normal day was about 190. Um, but I would cut down to about 155 for a normal fight. So for this one, the weight class was 185. So I only had 5 pounds. That was easy. I actually
Right.
cut that within the first week, and I was like, hey, I'm just going to maintain here, keep our lifting schedule the same. We'll up the cardio. I actually got to a point before the fight. I think I only weighed 178, just normal because you're training so hard.
Yeah.
I looked at my teammates. I was like, I think I need to go up a little bit. Like I think that's so it's kind of fun. The week before the fight, I'm actually crushing spaghetti and everything else.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people are. At another buddy who's actually fighting that same night. He was holding a plastic cup, spitting in it just to lose the extra weight, to
Wow.
make his weight class.
Right.
So it was kind of fun to be on that other side of the spectrum where I wasn't have to worry about it.
Right. Oh, that no, that I had friends that were in it, and not in it, but like loved watching it in college. So this is like the detail stuff that I love hearing. Hopefully, they'll enjoy this episode as well. Um,
It's a unique world, that's for sure. There's so much that happens behind the scenes. You probably wouldn't be shocked, but it's shocking to see.
right. And to kind of give like the 180 on this, that was your best moment. Did you have any like really scary moments where you're just like,
Yeah,
am I sure I should be doing this type of thing?
the thing that took me out of it, which was I was actually signed to take on a fighter who had beaten that buddy of mine that I just mentioned the same night that I fought.
Hmm.
He and I came to terms to a fight, and it was going to be a big one. It was going to be in downtown Cleveland. There's all this crazy stuff happening, and we had actually had a fight canceled a couple months before this because he got knocked out at practice and he had a concussion. He reached out and let me know. I said, hey, no problem. We'll reschedule, no problem.
Hmm.
And I was at practice and had my headgear on and everything because we were getting ready for this fight. I think it was only 3 weeks out, and somehow my buddy hit me just right that it actually fractured my eye socket straight down, and it was at first I was like, okay, painful, but we'll see. And I kept going through practice, and a buddy of mine ended up getting pressure in my eye, and I just completely shut down. It messed me up.
Right.
I went to the ground. I was rolling around in pain. And that same buddy, he took me to the emergency room, and they took X-rays and said, yeah, your your eye socket's fractured, to the point where when I would breathe, I could literally see my eye shift in my
Oh,
head. It
oh,
wasn't being held in place properly.
oh, God.
But what really helped me make that decision that this is it. Like I'm done competing. Um, the doctor was like, you know, if you want to fight, we can probably still get you into this fight. And I was like, this is my sight we're talking about.
Right.
And again, at this point, I'd already kind of decided I didn't want to go pro. I was like, it's not worth having these issues. Again,
Right.
it's very humbling when you take a deep breath and you literally see your eyes shift in your head.
Yeah.
It's scary. Um, so at that point, I was kind of done.
Right.
As much as I had wished I had that fight, because it would have been so awesome to be in downtown Cleveland, and have that awesome fight. Got to in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
It could have protected me from something worse.
Yeah. It could have had
And
something much worse happen, you know?
exactly, it healed. We're fine. I will take that as a lesson learned, and we just move forward.
Right. Oh, and you know what? Like you said, sometimes little things happen where it's just like, maybe this saved me from, from something crazy happening, you know, or,
Yeah,
something life
yeah.
changing, and
And I'd rather not know what that could have
yep.
been than go through it. So I'll take the little fractured eye socket. A month and a half goes by, you're healed, and
Yeah.
we're
Moving
here telling
on.
the story.
And
Exactly.
so after that, I know on the things you told me beforehand, you worked for the Cleveland Indians, which I think is a pretty sweet job. And is what did you do with them?
So, actually, I was doing this at the same time I was doing MMA. I started with the Indians as a freshman in college. I started just doing game day stuff. I was called a runner, so kind of running errands for the internal office guys and stuff like that. Um, it was really cool. I was there on the games, and during the games underground, getting things ready, doing whatever I needed to do. Ended up going full time before I graduated college. So all this is happening during MMA. Um, and I remember one day I went into work and my eye was completely black. It may have been from the fracture. I don't remember. um, but that's when my focus was really starting to go towards the Indians, because I had let them know, this is where I want to be. I want to retire here. I love what I do here. And graduated college, was still full time with them. And then I actually accepted a position after the 2016 World Series that would move my wife and I down here to Arizona to help run our training facility. And that's where I got into working with the clubhouse directly with the players, literally all the behind the scenes stuff
Yeah.
of what the players would need, and helping baseball to work
Yeah.
and baseball to happen every single day is what I was doing,
Right.
which is awesome. But it's grueling, it's very time consuming, and I can't give those guys enough credit for how much they do behind the scenes.
And anything behind the scenes, nobody can ever fully fathom what actually happens unless you're the one, you know, in the trenches, actually doing it, actually working it. And I forgot to ask you this question earlier. You said you played baseball. What position were you?
It kind of was all over. Shortstop
Okay.
was my favorite, and
Okay.
then
That,
center field
I
became
mean,
close second, because I was fast.
right. Well, they say, some of the best players play at shortstop. So that's a testament to you.
I appreciate it. It was fun. I always had dreams as a little kid of playing professionally.
Hmm.
That wasn't to be, but
Right.
to be able to work alongside the team that I loved watching every single day as a kid, and to call those guys my friends on the field, that was a really cool thing.
Right.
So kind of fun.
Eh, like you said, I mean, sometimes you gotta test out different things, and
Mhm.
you were there, and it sounded like you transitioned to streaming. And I guess the next question is, how did you decide to start streaming on Twitch?
Well, much like many other people, there was some things that happened in 2020. Um, Sports were one of the first things to go, and
Yeah, and that's the
we were in
beginning
the
of the
middle
season,
of
right? That's like,
yeah, we were in the middle of spring training when it happened. and we had like a meeting one day. We are talking about it after that basketball player touched all the microphones. Then he tested positive. That was kind of like the first,
Mhm.
the first signal that sports were going to get shut down.
Mhm.
Um, I'd actually gone home not feeling well, and of course, right then is when you don't want to be not feeling good.
Yeah.
In March 2020, because nobody knows anything yet.
Right.
Um, so we'd been shut down, and everybody for spring training had been sent home. Um, I had nothing to do at this time. We didn't have our son yet. My wife was working from home because they had shifted everything over from going into the office. And my brother had been streaming on Twitch. His name on Twitch is Senior Biceps. He had been streaming for years, just casually doing it for fun, always creating funny clips. And I never fully understood it. Um, I didn't understand why there wasn't entertainment behind it, of watching video games rather than playing it, until
Mhm.
somebody explained it to me. They're like, "Hey, you like watching baseball? That's entertaining for you. You could go play it." Some people like watching it. When you're watching other people do something that they might be better at than you, or creating entertainment, it's just another entertainment source. So, okay, so why don't I start streaming? Something to do. I can at least, at the very minimum, go back and watch funny moments that are on VODs of my friends and I playing games throughout March 2020, which everybody knows Verdansk was in its prime then.
Mhm.
Um, so just got rolling on that. Had literally nothing to do. Again, I work with baseball players. They're all at home. So started doing that, and it just started growing rapidly. Didn't expect it to, but I started with an Xbox, an HDMI cord, and a Mac laptop that
Oh
was from
man.
college. So
Oh man.
it was very choppy. The camera was on the laptop, the microphone was on the laptop. It was bad. But those are the roots.
Oh, I mean
Uh,
that's I also started at the end of the year, but it was a good time to just be like, hey, let me just give it a try. Like you said, it's another form of entertainment because I felt the same way when I first heard about it. I've heard about Twitch before, but it
mhm.
was I had watched people, and then during the pandemic, similar to you, I had a buddy that started streaming, and I saw like his Twitch chat growing, and then I saw like how friendly everybody was, and I was just like, you know what? Let me just give it a try. And he ended up stop streaming, and I continued it. Um, but yeah, it's like if you build up the right community, like it's just fun. It just
Yeah.
becomes good old fashioned fun and hanging out, and that's really what it's about, right?
Yeah, and it was such a unique time too, where everybody's kind of stuck inside. So the opportunity to create relationships online was at a prime time.
Right.
And that was kind of like the thing that I was working towards at the time, because during the day my wife's working, I have nothing to do. I'm working out of the house. Um and I'm looking forward to, as it comes to be, streaming at night and getting online and creating funny content and doing great things, and like you said, meeting people.
Right.
um I literally have a friend that I met, named Walker, who was stationed over in Germany when the pandemic happened. Literally met him on Twitch, and now he's actually planning on coming to Arizona in the coming months. Now that he's back in the U.S., and we're going
Oh
to be meeting
man.
for the first time. Um, but it's those unique opportunities to connect with people around the world
Right.
that you can't ever explain to somebody unless you're involved.
Hmm.
For me, it started coming into creating funny content. I was dared one week, as my chat grew, like, well, would you eat a Carolina Reaper? For anybody watching, don't do that. Don't. It's the hottest pepper in the world, and it tastes
Oh.
terrible. So it's not fun. But it went from, well, hey, this week eat the world's hottest pepper. Next week do the world's hottest gummy bear. Do this, do that. And it just turned into this. Every week we have something ridiculous happening on Saturday
Right.
night. Um, and as it grew, I remember the day I looked at my wife. We were standing in the kitchen, and I will never forget asking her. I was like, "What would you think if this ended up growing to the point where this is what I did?"
Right.
Um, and at this point, I think I averaged 10 people a stream or something.
Hmm.
She's like, "I'm not sure if you would like it," and because again, there was so much behind it, and I agreed with her. I was like, I don't know if I would either. And as the meaning behind it became more apparent to me, which was, again, I could use my faith that drove me to loving MMA and the opportunity to impact people's lives. That's where it really started to grow for me, because now streaming has a purpose. It's not just playing video games. And that massive leap of faith where, um, I went full time, you really have to fall back on why you're doing what you're doing because it's not just simply turning on a camera and playing video games. It's so much more than that. And what actually turned me to going full time towards the end of 2020. We had been going back to baseball. We had ways of making it happen, and I ended up needing spine surgery, which took me out of work for about a month, and I was supposed to go back, which I did. But then again, during that month, I'm going to focus more on streaming, and it really started to kick in that I was like, I love being able to do this every day. I love doing funny things. I love being able to laugh with people, making other people laugh, kind of be that escape from what every day might bring. And at this point, we'd already gone family friendly, just so that way, I could be more welcoming to a younger audience. And I've met the parents of many of my viewers, which is super cool. And they've actually told me, they said, we love that the habits they pick up from you are going to be positive ones, words of positive reinforcement and making sure we're building each other up rather than tearing each other down, which you so commonly get on social media. Um, After I went back to work after that month, kind of in the back of my head, I want to do this full time. I love what I do. And my passion had shifted and I could feel it. It went from a passion of baseball to a passion of growing the stream and being a part of something bigger than myself. And as much as I had that in baseball, now I feel like I can make an impact in people's lives who need it. Um, After I went back to work about a month, I ended up needing the same spine surgery again, but this time the surgeon said, "You're not going to work for 3 months." Um, and so I had to take those 3 months off, and it was essentially, for myself and my wife would say that was the Lord's way of saying, "Hey, this is your dry run for 3 months of going full time.
Right.
Make the best of it, and we'll see. You know, do you want to do this? Because we believed it was where I was meant to be." Um, After the 3 months were over, it was a no doubter,
Right.
and at that time, it was a massive leap of faith to go in full time. You're leaving a job that everybody would say that's a dream job. And it was. I loved what I did. I still have many of the guys that I talk to all the time, but to jump in and do something that had absolutely no guarantees. You go from the Major League Baseball pension to you're betting on yourself. And for me, betting on my faith, that's not an easy conversation to bring up with your family, but I'm very blessed with an awesome wife who was very supportive of it because she could see what what could happen and the
Yeah.
impact we were going to have. Again, having a meaning behind what we're doing, not just playing video games.
Right.
Um,
Shout out to your wife, Mrs. Kamorah,
yes,
for
she's the best.
because as someone who has a better half as well, like if you don't have the backing of someone that loves you, that'll support you and be like, you know what, chase your passion. You know what I mean? Do it because
Mhm.
that's gonna make you're gonna succeed with that, no matter what, no matter how many trials and
Yep.
tribulations you're gonna go through. If you have someone that, like I said, you love, that you trust everything with, and they're like, do it, you you already got the foundation in. From there,
Yeah,
it's just building it up.
it's having that faith together, and we spent many nights praying about it, talking about it. I remember going on a walk, um, and it was probably around the last month that I was away uh, from the team because of my surgery. I was trying to get back into walking and things like that. And I remember telling her, I was like, having walks like this together during the evening time should not be a rare thing. And going back to what we were talking about, you always see the upfront stuff, the when the cameras are on with MMA, but you don't see what happens behind the scenes in baseball. It never stops. Baseball seasons every single day of the year.
Right.
Can't tell you how many times things were needed on holidays or Saturday at 3 a.m. We're coordinating travel, different things like that. Um, it is a very difficult world to have a family in, especially if you want to have a lot of time with them. And we saw this as an opportunity where she's going to be working from home now, and I could be at home more doing something that we both believe in. Um, and we look back now and say it was the best decision we ever made. We love what we get to do every single day. We're together as a family. She still works from home. We have our little one now. I get to be involved in my son's everyday activities, which is super special. Not a lot of fathers get to say that. And again, the connections and impact that we get to have on people's lives and the people that we can bring together. I can represent my faith, but still loving and welcoming to all, showing them, hey, our differences don't have to define us. we can be something unique here and impact each other's lives beyond stream in ways that other people don't see. Because again, this world is so divided by differences, and they want us to define ourselves by our differences. We don't do that.
Yeah, we're all
Um,
people. We're all humans, you know?
we're all people. Yeah, exactly. If you can come together and set your differences aside, and they could be very basic differences that define who you are. Some of the people I talk to every single day and text every single day outside of stream, that I met through Twitch, are 99% different from me.
Right.
And it's amazing because we have love for each other and we support each other, we build each other up. Um, Having that purpose that was bigger than Twitch, knowing that if Twitch ever went away, these relationships would still
Mm.
last and we could impact each other's lives, changed what Twitch meant for me. And it's still to this day is what brings that gasoline for that burning fire of passion every
Mm.
single day.
Yeah. No, and I love that. And you're preaching to the choir here. I wholeheartedly agree with everything you're saying. And I know that your son, you don't have to talk about him too much, but how old is he now? He's 2 or
It's two.
2?
Yep.
Oh, man.
Turned 2 in December. And he is way too smart. Shocked me one day. He just counted to 10 randomly. I don't know. He then started rattling off the ABCs. I looked at my wife. I was like, "Where'd that come from?" And he just a little sponge of knowledge. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's so incredible to see him growing, and I hope the day comes where he wants to be very involved in what we're doing. He
Right.
loves jumping on camera and seeing himself and putting the headphones on. Um,
I know
so we'll see.
chat loves that as well. So
They soak it up. If they could replace me with him, they would. You know what? I'd let him, but we'll give him a couple more years so we can figure out the mouse and key
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and we'll
yeah,
go from there.
yeah. Yeah, because let me tell you, people are relentless online. Apart from Twitch, people that you're playing against aren't gonna be as nice. They're gonna
Oh, exactly. And
it's
that's, I
a
mean, honestly, I tell people all the time, and I do it too. I never have any game chat on or anything. I'm just like,
mm-hmm,
hey, we're gonna leave this as positive as we can. We're
right,
gonna block out all the negativity. But again, a lot of that
right,
family friendly side is so that way when my son is old enough, when he is sitting in his chair and he's doing his own thing, I know he's protected from that negativity that he
right.
doesn't need to experience.
Yeah,
Um,
it's too
I
much.
want it to
It's
be
too
a
much overexposure
it's
to
way too
negativity
much.
nowadays.
Yeah, you get enough of it throughout the day. Let's have those couple hours where we can escape it together.
Yeah, especially with video games. It's like it's meant to be a game. It's meant to be fun. It's
Mhm.
if you lose, you know what? I lost. But I'm still having fun. You're still in. You should still be enjoying it. Now that I'm
Yeah,
older, I can say it. When I was younger version of myself, it was definitely a little more competitive. But now that I'm older, I'm just like I'm just happy to still be here and happy to still be playing games, talking with you, talking to amazing people like you. So
and it's I do a lot of tournaments to help make a living as a full
yeah,
time
yeah.
streamer,
Tell
or
us
I
tell us about
did. Uh,
the tournaments and the games that you play, so people get a little more know about you.
Warzone it will be in the middle of my heart for as long as I can possibly see. I love Warzone. I know it's a very frustrating game, but it's that collective frustration that makes winning feel that much better. So Warzone's where I compete in a lot of tournaments. We are currently waiting for the third party um stat tracking to be able to run in Warzone 2 tournaments. But I was running several tournaments a day in Warzone 1, and I went on a 3-month winning streak twice where I didn't lose a tournament, which was really cool. Um, and I told people even then, I was like, if I can do this and this is how I'm making a living and I'm staying calm and collected and being positive to others, there's no reason why when you're playing casually, you can't do that too.
Right.
Um, because the difference between winning and losing is how fast you hit return to lobby and you just do it again. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else happens. Um, and I think that's the biggest thing about this community too, is it's what we're doing beyond the game. The game's going on in the background, but it's the laughs we're having together, the conversations we're having together about everyday life and building each other up that make it special. Um, but I love to get involved and bring people into that situation where we are gaming together. So, Fortnite's become a big part of what I do. It's goofy. I call it Sesame Street Battle Royale because it's funny. It's hilarious. Come on. There's nothing like being shot by a giant muscular kitten and then he starts doing the gritty on you because he killed you with the world's weirdest gun. It's hilarious. It's fun. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Um Recently Hogwarts Legacy has become a favorite, and we actually just 2 days ago found this new one called Super Animal Royale. You want to talk about goofy? It's a
I've played it.
2D.
I've played
Oh,
it. Oh my
so
god.
good.
It's just the it's the funnest, dumbest game. Like
Yep. And I love it. I'm obsessed because again, it's just you can take it super serious, but
yeah.
you're a little raccoon wearing a beanie and in a jumpsuit, and you're attacking people with an
Yeah.
AR-15 or whatever the heck it is in the game. It's just funny. It's hilarious. And the game's over in 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
who
Yeah,
cares?
but it's a similar style where like the map the map closes up and you gotta get to the boundary
Yep.
with, because I didn't when I first started playing, I was like, what's going on? Why is it telling me to move this way? And then I died and I was like, oh. And then I think I got lucky and won a round because I was just hiding, and then I got the last person. And I was just like, oh, this is
Yeah,
kind of fun, you know?
quick little point and click game. You could play it with anybody on their cell phone, a Switch.
Yeah.
I will never forget my first kill. I jumped on an ostrich and pecked somebody to death.
You can do that?
Greatest. Yes.
I didn't know
And literally,
you
I saw an ostrich. I was like, huh. Jumped on, and I was like, I started hitting the attack button. I was like, oh, it pecks people. Right up to the nearest guy I could, got a kill. And then I died right after. I was like, I don't care. I just accomplished the greatest thing in gaming history. I killed somebody in a 2D little animal game with an ostrich. I win life
while
at
wearing a
that point.
beanie, you know?
While wearing a beanie, exactly.
I need to start
it's
playing
those
that
times
again.
having fun gaming.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah,
fun.
just a goofy fun, you know? And
Exactly.
you told me this right before stream, but you have a double PC setup, and that's like a streamer's dream. So how long have you had it, and how has it been a life changer for streaming?
Yes. It actually started a little over a year ago. We were planning a trip home, and we were thinking about, how are we going to do this? Because when you're streaming full time, this is your life. So
Right.
taking days off is not something you can easily do. The first time we had to go home on a whim, it was sadly for a funeral in early 2021, and I took my entire single PC setup. That was one of, if not the most stressful thing I've ever done with travel. Um, Terrifying. It was awful. So
Right.
we were thinking, okay, when we go home, we need something that's going to make it easier for us to stream on the go. And I had built a custom PC through Alienware, my original PC here. And so we started looking, and we built a streaming laptop, like a very high powered one. So when we go on the road, like we go to TwitchCon in Vegas in a few months, the laptop's going to go with me with a separate camera and everything else. So the main PC that I play on will stay here. The laptop, which can do everything, will go with me because I can just simply pack it up and go.
Yeah.
But it is an absolute life changer here because my main PC just runs the game, so I can run it in these crazy 1440p 4K graphics, and then the streaming laptop just handles OBS.
Oh,
And
that's smart. A laptop. I never thought about that. I always think you had to have a separate like tower. You know what I mean? And
yeah, and that's what I used to think too. But then when I started exploring the laptops again for the whole, well, if we want to go on a trip and stream, actually Vegas was one of the things that we had on our list because we love going to Vegas and hanging out. And we would stream from there. So the first couple of times we went, we used our phones. Not ideal. But taking the laptop, it's simple. Plug it in, microphone on, camera on, and you're set. It already has everything in it for OBS and everything else. I literally just hit stream on a different scene. It has all the sources and everything ready to go. And it's great for on the go, but then here at home, I was like, well, I might as well take advantage. We have two computers, and then it allows both of the computers to have an easier time running everything they want to run at the highest settings you could possibly want it to. I'm telling you, 4K gaming is where it's at. You can't see it on Twitch, but if you can run Warzone in the highest settings possible, you will experience an entire different game.
But that's why you went undefeated for those 3 months,
You know what? Maybe that's true. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it's not the gaming chair. It's the 4K graphics that'll do it for you.
I may have to pick your brain on the laptop after the episode, but is it an Alienware laptop as well?
Yeah. I went all Alienware. They just they have the options where you can go in and you literally are building it on their website, and they just ship it to you completed. So it's not a pre-made thing. I mean, it literally takes months to do.
Wow.
Everything's customized. It's amazing. And I know a lot of people oh, you're paying for the brand, which that's fine. But I was able to literally go in and fine tune everything I wanted to, and it
Right.
just arrived here ready. Because
Right.
I know everybody loves building their PC.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I used to get punched in the face for fun. I don't need to be trying to build a computer. It's not gonna go well. I'm gonna get upset. I'm gonna get one of those headaches again. Just send it to me in a box. I'll
Yeah.
hook up the
Yeah.
cords, plug it
Let
in.
me just
I
plug
already
it in.
picked out the parts. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just let me plug it in. I'll
Yeah.
pick out the parts. You do it. Yeah, it's a lot easier.
I 100%. As someone, I built mine because I was for my own business. I built it, but I had a friend helping me, and that was 6 years ago, and we overdid it. So I was lucky enough for like my architecture programs and for streaming. I was like, oh, this thing's already built for it. But I always thought, man, I need a second PC, like you said, one for gaming and one for OBS. Maybe that's down the road. Maybe that's down the road. But that's interesting. I love that.
Yeah,
And that's smart having the second one be a laptop, like you said. On the road, it's a good. We got it. You just put it in your backpack and call it a day. Or
exactly. And it works so well. And I mean, you don't have to go all out with the laptop either. Especially if you're not gaming and streaming off of the same computer, it's so much less stressful on the computer. You don't
right,
need something crazy. I just want to be able to know that if I did want to play Warzone on the laptop, say we go home for 2 weeks for whatever reason,
right,
that I could hook that up to a second monitor, have Warzone running on that, and it's running OBS, just lower graphics.
right,
Um, I have that option,
right,
but you don't even really need all of that. It's just because since this is my living, it's a business. I have to do certain things in order to keep the stream going the way
right.
that I want it to.
And you want it to be the
Um,
best as possible. You know what I mean?
exactly,
So
the best possible and not change the experience whether we're on the road or at home. So it definitely has changed everything for us.
now you mentioned TwitchCon, and I know you went to last year's. How was that experience? Because you're the first person I've spoken to on this podcast that actually has gone. So tell me about maybe even booking the tickets, going the whole thing. Give me the whole shebang.
So I think the biggest thing with TwitchCon is it's going to be what you make it. And what I say by that is when we went this past year, I knew going in it was going to be a kind of feel it out kind of year. Everybody who was going to be going to TwitchCon had a very likely chance that they had just started streaming since 2020 and
Right,
there had not been a TwitchCon since. So everybody going was very likely to be new to the scene. Didn't really know what to expect. We ended up getting tickets for every single day. We went to the concert and everything like that, which was really cool. There's a lot of things you can take advantage of there, different classes and lessons and things like that. But I think the biggest thing and biggest takeaway from going to TwitchCon for me is what we're planning on doing this upcoming year, which is to plan more stuff with people outside of the actual convention center itself. Um, Great to go down there, great to meet people, but when you're actually in the convention center, it's kind of hard to just like meet up with people. And there's not a lot of like things to kind of like separate yourself away from to go do. So kind of taking advantage of the things outside of the actual convention center with people who are in town is going to be something that we're really going to focus on. Great to go down there and meet people from like Streamlabs, talk to some bigger streamers. I wasn't one to get in line like take pictures with any of the big time streamers.
right,
We wanted to learn more about the people that were involved with every single day and things like that. So this upcoming year, like we're planning on, hey, we're gonna go down on the first day, we're gonna check everything out, but we're gonna plan a dinner for everybody within the community, later that night kind of thing. So kind
right,
of coupling off of going down to the convention center, taking advantage of what Twitch has put on, but then the time afterwards when that's closed,
right.
that's where we're really going to be able to have those meaningful connections with people that are actually at TwitchCon too.
Yeah.
So really excited to take what we learned year one and apply it, especially in Vegas.
Yeah, and that's good advice for anybody that wants to go. And yeah, Vegas. I really want to go to the. Is it in October or
Yep,
September?
it's in October.
October.
Why I can't remember the exact dates, but as soon as there was a little leak about it being in Vegas, I
Oh
ran
yeah.
up to my wife. I was like, "It's actually going to Vegas. It's going to be in Vegas." I remember driving home from San Diego, and 'cause we're only in Arizona, so it was like a 4-hour drive.
Right.
I told her I was like, I would do anything for them to have it in Vegas. I don't
Right.
think they ever will, but if they did, it would be the best TwitchCon ever. When they announced it, I instantly was online. I was like, "We're booking now. We're getting our spot. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
missing out." So
Oh man,
Vegas is a fun town, and
it is.
there's so much to do. There's something for everybody. You don't even have to be into going out or anything like that. There's
Right.
just so many experiences you can have, and I think that
Right.
was part of the San Diego thing we learned. A lot of people enjoyed going out, at night. That's my wife and I. We're like that old couple that we just. I would rather DoorDash food and stay inside.
Yeah. No, I
um,
feel you. I feel you. And
but
just
yeah,
because especially you got to decompress after a long day and new things
yes,
and meeting a lot of people or talking, and it's just like you need to just take it all in, absorb it, and then next day, go back out. Versus,
exactly.
like you said, extend that day, and then you're losing out on the next day because you got to recoup all from the 20-hour day you had the first day.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And it was amazing how empty the convention center was in the late morning hours,
Mhm.
day 2 and 3, compared to day 1.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Oh man, everybody's having a blast. That's great. If that's what you want to do, you can make it what you want to. But one of the most special things we had, my wife and I were trying to find somewhere to eat, and we saw our buddy, Dude Spray Paint, that many people might know. He was walking with a couple of his friends and his fiance, and we just like, hey, let's get lunch together. And that was one of the coolest experiences ever because it was planned by accident.
Yeah.
But we're able to just be able to sit there and get to know people that are now really good friends, and making new friends from it was just something that you can't put a price on. But that didn't happen at the convention center itself, which again is full of opportunity.
Right.
But being able to step back and have that time with people that you're connecting with every single day, and just be able to have those real conversations face to face, is just on another level that you can't even put a price on.
Mhm. No, and like you said, sometimes the accidents, the accidental networking or events that happen, those are the best ones where it's just like, oh, you make
Yeah,
a great new friend or great connection and become something more meaningful down the road. And
exactly.
and
Exactly.
speaking of meaningful, I want to know, we already talked about your best moment for the MMA. Have you had a favorite moment or a top 3 moment streaming so far? And I know it's
So,
the Carolina Reaper, you know.
oh man, Carolina Reaper. I never again. We've retired the Carolina Reaper. I've eaten it in so many different ways. We've eaten things that are 8 times hotter than that. I'm done. Now it's just community having me eat gross things. It's like there's a random weird highlight every night of me
Right.
having to eat or do something completely weird. But that's who I am. That's my niche, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Um, One of the most life-changing things I've experienced though was around the time that we were starting to think that we should go full time. I was actually rated by Alexandra with about 2,000 people.
Holy
Um,
crap.
it was wild. And for those who don't know, she is a streamer on Twitch. She actually plays Mara in Call of Duty. So she has a big following, which is super cool in itself. But what was super special about it is we ended up meeting somebody named Don Don, who a lot of people might know. He
Oh,
came in on that raid.
okay.
And come to find out, Don Don is in his 70s, lives about 30 minutes away. And we just connected. Now we like get together for holidays. My son knows him as Uncle Don Don. My son's first high five was to Don Don. So it's taking an opportunity that was a major blessing and a half. 2,000 people who rated in. We met
Right.
several camp fan members because of that.
Right.
But now we have a new family member, and it's taking those opportunities that are presented in front of you, and you get to make it something even more meaningful. Now we have
Right.
a new family member for life, and that's just not on Twitch, but like every single day, Don and I are texting back and forth. He comes over, we go out to dinner. Um,
He's
and
always in your
it's
stream whenever I'm there. Whenever I pop in, he's,
yep.
hey
He
parrot,
he
he's
takes
always
yep.
in there.
He takes the stream probably even more serious than I do. He loves what we're doing. He loves the positivity, and it's another example of Don Don and I have very different basic beliefs and outlooks on life, and that doesn't matter. It doesn't change a
Right.
thing.
Right.
I love him to death, and anything that we could do for each other, we always do. Um, it's it's again getting to know people, and you don't know where it could go. We
Right.
literally have spent Thanksgiving together, Easter, countless holidays, and random weekends, and I wouldn't replace that for anything. But all of that because of a crazy night on stream that I actually wasn't even planning on streaming
Right.
when I got rated from one of the biggest streamers on Twitch. It's
Right.
unbelievable.
I mean, and it all started because your brother was streaming and 2020 happened, and you were just like,
Yep.
well, I guess I'll give this a try. And look at you now. And I always love seeing other people succeed. It just makes me smile because it's like you got to spread the wealth of like
Yeah.
that's just my outlook, at least, for wanting everybody to do well. And
100%. And
so,
not everybody is going to have the idea of wanting to go full time streaming. And it's
right,
not for everybody. My brother thought it was for him, and come to find out, he doesn't enjoy the full time stuff that comes with
right.
it. Much like we would talk about everything that happens behind the scenes, it might appear, I just play video games for a living, but that's not the case. You
There's a
have to be
lot
as
of behind the
passionate.
scenes.
Oh, there's so much. You have to be probably even more passionate for the stuff that you're doing when the cameras aren't on.
Mm-hmm.
Planning events, budgeting, you're running spreadsheets left and right. I'm planning events right now for November and December, and this is my job. You
Right,
you have to love the things that are going on um when you're not live with everybody. It's the same thing with baseball. You have to love all of the training camps and everything else. There's always a sacrifice to be made in order
right,
to get to that moment where everybody is seeing the product that you're putting on the field or putting on Twitch,
right.
or putting in the cage as a fighter. You have to love every single part of it. And I'm very blessed that I've found um, this belief in that, in my faith, and being able to exude that on Twitch while just making an impact with people's lives, whether they believe the same thing or not, and make people laugh.
Right.
And that's where my passion is. I love everything that I get to do with it, from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, and wiping writing off my face, because they make me look like
I think
Post
every
Malone.
time
But
I
it is
come
what it
in,
is.
I think every time I come in, you always have something on your face, and it just makes me laugh.
Oh man, I never know what I'm gonna look like at the end of the night, and I'm always gonna fail to get all of it off my face. So I wake up in the morning, my wife looks at me, she goes, "Got something right there." It's like, yeah, I know. It's hard to use. I never thought I'd have to figure out the best makeup wipes in the world, but I do have to figure that out, and I'm still not going to get it all off at 2:30 in the morning in the dark. But I try.
Right. Well, I'm sure the little one likes seeing you with all the stuff on your face.
He just blankly stares at me now and laughs. I don't think he knows what to think of it yet, because again, he's only 2, so he doesn't fully understand what's going
Right.
on. But he sees me, he laughs, and he'll just point. It's adorable. So I can't wait till the day comes when the challenge is baby Cam gets to ride on my face, because
Oh,
that'll really be
oh,
fun for everybody.
that's the $1 million idea. What's he gonna write?
Oh gosh, I don't even know.
God, no, that's
It's fun
awesome.
though.
That's amazing. And we gotta move on to my favorite part, which obviously is the pet peeves. Do you have any gaming pet peeves? And I know you turn your sound off from in-game chatting, but is there anything that, like, just gets your last nerve when you're playing a game that people do?
Besides hackers,
Yeah,
which
I mean hackers is a good answer. I mean, I think everybody would
yeah.
hate that. Like,
I think it's just when it's taken way too seriously. And I know that goes back to our conversation about we're playing a game, but even when I'm hanging out and vibing with chat and we have funny things happening, if I have teammates who are getting frustrated, like, "Hey, we need you to focus," I'm like, as cool as the game is, it's these relationships that we're building that actually matter.
right,
Um, Take it as a game. Again, if you're in a tournament, I understand. You're trying to make a living doing that. I
right,
get that. But you have to remember, we're just playing a game. Take advantage of the opportunity set in front of you, much like the Alex Zedger raid. It wasn't just about getting excited about the raid, but taking that opportunity, I got to know some people, and now I have
right,
lifelong friends.
right.
And my family has a new family member because of it.
New Uncle Don
It's
Don.
Uncle Don Don, exactly. It's Don't take everything so seriously. And remember, we're on Twitch. If you started streaming on Twitch, it was because you wanted to have fun. Don't let it become something that you resent because
Yeah,
you're taking the gaming too seriously,
mm,
or you start focusing on things that don't matter outside of having fun,
right,
because not everybody's doing this full time. And even then, you got to have fun, or else you're going to resent gaming and being on Twitch in general.
right.
Enjoy every single second you have with it.
Yeah. No, I think those are great words to live by. And favorite book that I know we talked about it before stream, but let all the listeners know your favorite book.
Yeah, it's gonna sound very cliche, but the Bible's the only book I really read, honestly. And I'm not one who's like, oh, I read it from front to back in this amount of time. I'll read small portions of it, and then I'll just try to research it, and I'll try to get more understanding about it. Faith is a big part of who I am and what I do on stream. But it's really the only book I pick up, to be honest with you. I have a couple books from Tim Tebow that I do want to read soon. But I've been trying to get into the habit of jumping into the Bible, reading a section of it, but then trying to understand it as it was written, not just in the English that it's currently in. So by far, and the only book that I'm reading right now is the Bible, and I absolutely love it because I'm trying to really understand it more than just seeing all these words and being confused by what I'm reading. Because sometimes it takes a little time to comprehend what you read.
Right. And no, and that goes back to what you said, like behind the scenes, like learning beyond, like you said, you're not just turning on a camera for Twitch, like you're going beyond the cover, basically, is a good
Mhm.
analogy for that. And
Exactly,
I didn't get to
exactly.
ask
It's the
you
content
this.
behind it.
I didn't get to ask you this before. Just because you mentioned Tebow, do you have a favorite college team, or for football or basketball or NBA or NFL? Do you have any favorites?
Yeah, so for college, it's OHIO, Ohio State. I love the Cavs, love the Browns, but as a kid, for football, I was a New England Patriots fan because the Browns weren't a team. They were sold when I was 4.
Right.
So I went with the team that hated Pittsburgh as much as Cleveland, which is New England. So yes, I like Tom Brady, even though he went to that school up north at Michigan. Um, Love the Pats, but I love the Browns, the Cavs, pretty much Cleveland and Ohio through and through.
Right.
I will always be close now to the Cleveland Guardians. I have a special connection there. It's fun to be a fan again,
Mhm.
and I'm very excited about it. But hopefully, some of those guys that I met as rookie minor league players will help lead them to a championship.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm an Eagles fan myself, so
It's okay.
we
You
we had a
guys
we
can
had a
have that one,
we had a rough loss this year, but it was still crazy.
but you had an epic Super Bowl against us, so
Well, that yes, that true, true, true.
I was happy for you guys, man. You guys deserved it.
Everybody gets
Everyone
deserves their
wanted.
first. Whenever I see a team, even if
Yes.
I don't like them, and it's like, oh, is there a chance of getting their first championship? I'm going to root for them 100% because the
Yeah.
players work so hard, like beyond the team name and logo. Those players, like you know more than anybody. There's so much going the whole year versus just a season. So,
Yeah.
um,
Christmas Day, the day after Christmas, people are working hard. They work hard to get there. So those tears that you see players crying when they win a championship, that is the culmination of a lifetime
yeah,
of dedication and
right.
sacrifice. And I was very blessed when we had the World Series in 2016 that
Mhm.
I was front and center for what we had built and what happens behind the scenes. I have an American League championship ring with my name on it from it, which
Oh,
is
that's
super
sweet.
cool. And that's something I'll always hold near and dear.
Right.
Because again, it's kind of like holding everything that you've sacrificed that time away for family and everything else to get there.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot that goes into it, and whether your passion's gaming, sports, architecture for you, it's when you get to that finished product and it all kind of comes together. You got to remember when you see somebody being extremely passionate about something, it's because of everything that's happened behind the scenes. Everybody has their journey. You can't just assume that they've walked a straight path and everything was easy the whole way.
Oh, I was having this conversation with somebody actually in the last episode, guys, episode 13 with Cyber Fox, and we were saying similar things where it's just like you don't know what somebody's going through right now, like
Mhm.
you don't know what they've gone through, and that's that. Don't judge anybody.
Yeah.
Just
And actually, that's a big part of. I actually bring it up every day on stream, and I say the same exact thing that somehow I've just memorized over time. But you have a chance every single interaction you have with somebody to impact their life. One kind interaction can change somebody's day, change their life, or save their life.
right,
Can't underestimate the power of kindness and what kind of positive movement you can start.
right,
And I say it all begins with you because it's true. You don't know what somebody could be going through, and you taking a simple 2 seconds out of your day to say something kind
right,
or to help somebody in need, and it could be as simple as somebody dropped 10 pieces of paper. You're
right.
walking by and you stop and help them pick it up. You don't know what's built up to that moment. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know what kind of day they
Yeah,
had, and you can impact people's lives simply by being kind.
right.
And that's why, again, don't be defined by our differences. Love all people, no matter what. Again, that goes back to my faith and what I believe, and I think it's been lost amongst so many people. Just show kindness and love. You don't have to agree. Being loving and compassionate towards each other does not mean you agree on everything,
Mhm.
and you're never going to agree on everything. Even your best friend, I'm sure, has very big differences from you, and that's okay. You can still show love and kindness, and
Right.
the world needs more of that because it has not been that way for quite a long time.
Nope, nope. And that's why these last couple episodes of this podcast have been turned into "Be kind to everybody."
Yeah,
That's what it's turned into.
it's so true.
Uh,
That's what we need. So we gotta act upon it. We can't just say it.
we do, we do. And sticking with the final questions, favorite TV show, movie that you like to recommend, or something that you've seen.
Looking around my streaming room, I have countless Game of Thrones canvases and metal
Oh,
posters. I'm obsessed. I love Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones and Boy Meets World when I was a kid. I still
Boy
watch some of those
Meets
shows.
World. Oh man,
Boy
that's
Meets
a
World is so
you're
good.
you're I'm my chat was making fun of me a while ago. Like it was when I was streaming in like the beginning of the pandemic, like 2021. I think I mentioned it came to Disney Plus, and I was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, I'm watching this immediately." And I started watching like through the seasons, and it was just so many memories of just like, and
Yes.
we're similar in age, so it's like we grew up with that, and just
Yeah.
for me
Well,
having
the
a
show
crush
grew
on
up with us.
Topanga, and
Yep.
and
Every '90s kid.
there,
But
there
it was.
there
Go
actually
ahead.
is
Go
a
ahead. Sorry.
podcast. They have a podcast if you wanted to listen. If you haven't already, like it's great.
It's fantastic, and to find out that so Ryder Strong, who plays Sean, he never even watched a single episode growing up.
Really?
To learn that, yeah, and that was part of the podcast that he had never watched a single episode. I don't know if he just doesn't like see himself on camera or what, but it was special because that show grew up with us. You went
Right.
from the junior high years up until college, and they got married.
Right.
And then obviously you had the spinoff where then there was they had kids and stuff like that. It was special
Yeah.
in that it wasn't a stagnant show, but
Right.
it grew up with the characters with where they are and were with where they were in life,
Right.
and
Yeah. And
something you don't often see.
and according into the podcast, he's rewatching it with his son now.
That's so
And
wild.
he'll ask his son, "What do you think of this episode?" And they have little clips of him talking about, "I didn't like when Sean did this or Corey did that," and it's the most adorable thing. So maybe you can come up with a spinoff for you and little Cam
Oh
or something.
man, I'm sure he's gonna watch some of my clips and be like, "What are you
What were
doing?
you doing?
Why did you do that?"
Why did you
And
think
I
this?
don't know. I have to start coming up with those reasons now.
You
Other
got
than
time.
chat dared me to,
You
because
got
that's not a
time.
good lesson
You
to
got.
teach your child. But um, yeah, I've got to start coming up with excuses as of today. So, I
Oh,
love it.
and last thing I love asking is, do you have a quote that you live by or that you've heard that that comes up in your head every once in a while?
Keep the faith. As much as that very much goes back to my Christian roots, I think you can apply it everywhere. And it's about having this positive outlook on everything you're gonna do. Take everything positively as you possibly can. And if you're pushing towards something, when you push through a storm, when you get to the other side, it'll be those hard things and those tough times that you went through that'll make standing in the sunlight that much better. If everything was always super easy, carefree, those special moments would not be that special. It's
Right.
the hard things that you go through when you keep the faith, you keep pushing through with perseverance and faith, that make those good times feel even better and make them worth living. So keep the faith through and through everything you're going through, good and bad,
Right.
and just remember to enjoy every single moment.
Right. Life is not a straight country road. It is a bumpy, hilly road. So make sure to buckle up because.
Yep. With drops and winds and winds and everything that you could possibly think,
Hmm.
things that you can't imagine will be thrown at you at some point. So just take everything as you possibly can and enjoy the journey. Don't be too much focused on the end game, because it's about every single day and enjoying those moments that make it that much sweeter.
Right. Oh, and agreed. And I feel like this has been a great episode. And I just want to say thank you. And all the listeners, please comment on YouTube if you enjoyed this episode and who else you'd like to see. Make sure to follow Kamorah on Twitch. We'll have his information all in the description if you'd like to follow him, whether you're listed on Spotify or watch it on YouTube. Kamorah, thank you so much for being on, dude. It's been awesome episodes. It's amazing to learn more about you and your passions, and such a life journey that you've had. I feel like you've had such a rich experience so far, whether it's moving across country or working with the Cleveland Indians, doing MMA, and now full-time streamer. I think it's inspiration for those that maybe they're having a downtime or just like, well, this didn't work out. Well, there's an opportunity somewhere. You just have to find it.
Exactly, and I really appreciate you having me. I genuinely look up to everything that you're doing, my friend.
Oh,
And if there's anybody out there listening, if there's just anything that I can do to help you along your way, or answer any questions, or any way that we can build each other up, please reach out to me. I want to be as accessible as I possibly can to everybody, because again, you don't know what kind of impact you can have on somebody's life, and never limit yourself to what you think is possible. That's been the journey of MMA, teaching me to push through tough times and tough situations. You overcome it. Everything you're going through right now, you can overcome, and just know, someone out there cares. I appreciate you having me, my friend. It's truly been a blessing to be here. Thank you.
oh, thank you, Cam, and have a good one.